It was a Wednesday afternoon around 3:30 when the contractor stumbled across my wife's secret phone, tucked behind the kitchen drywall like some dark confession wrapped in fiberglass. "Mitch," old Tom murmured, his calloused hands shaking as he held up the device. "You gotta take a look at this. But first, maybe get the kids out of the house." I set my coffee cup down, the porcelain clinking hard against the marble countertop Julia had fought for last summer, insisting it tied the whole kitchen together. All those arguments about her vision for our home. Now I was wondering what else she'd been hiding. "Tom, what's going on?" I asked. Tom Bradley had been fixing up homes in Burlington, Vermont for nearly 4 decades. We went way back to high school, and I trusted him with every big job at my company, Summit Building Supplies. The guy didn't rattle easily, but right now, his face was as white as the plaster dust on his work boots. "Just hear me out, Mitch," he said. "Get Sophie and Liam somewhere safe. Maybe your sister's place." My gut twisted. Sophie was 12, Liam was 9, probably upstairs bickering over the Xbox like always. Normal kid stuff. The kind of normal I thought we had. "Tom, you're freaking me out. What's on this thing?" He passed me the phone like it was a lit firecracker. The screen was spiderweb but still worked. I powered it on, and the first thing that hit me was a text chain that froze my blood. "Marcus, dying to see you tonight. Usual spot. Julia. Yeah, Mitch is stuck at work late again. He's clueless as ever." Then another. "Marcus. Perfect. Bring those papers we discussed. Let's make this happen." I scrolled back. Months of texts, months of scheming, months of my wife talking about me like I was a hurdle to clear. "Holy hell," I muttered under my breath. "There's more," Tom said, voice low. He handed me a yellow envelope that had been taped inside the wall. Inside were Polaroids. Our house, our backyard, Sophie and Liam climbing onto the school bus. Beneath those, copies of bank records, insurance policies, and contracts from my business. My hands shook. At 40, I felt like a kid learning the boogeyman was real. "Tom, how long's this been in there?" "Hard to pin down," he said, wiping his hands on his overalls. "The tape's fresh, though. Maybe 6 months max. I've been in this game a long time, Mitch. People stash stuff like this when they're planning something heavy, something they don't want anyone finding." The front door banged shut, and Julia's heels clicked across the oak floor, a sound that used to warm me, but now felt like a ticking clock. "Mitch, whose truck's parked out front?" Her voice had that sharp edge it carried more and more lately. I shoved the phone and photos back into the envelope and thrust it at Tom. "Keep this out of sight," I whispered. "Don't let her see." Julia stepped into the kitchen, still in her HR director getup, black skirt suit, crisp white shirt, that fake smile she used on problem employees. At 36, she was still stunning, the kind of polished beauty that caught my eye back in college. But now I saw things I'd missed. The way her gaze slid past mine, the constant phone checking, the new scent, sharp and pricey, didn't feel like her. "Oh, it's just Tom," she said, her voice icing over. "I thought we agreed to no more work until next week. I've got the Peterson Gala on Saturday." "Just wrapping up the kitchen wall," Tom said, keeping his tone even. "Should be done soon." "Good," she snapped, scanning the room like she was inspecting a crime scene. "This mess needs to be gone, Mitch, and we've got to talk about the renovation budget." I studied her face, the same one I'd seen over countless morning coffees, the same lips that vowed to love me 15 years ago on our wedding night. How long had she been playing me? "Sure thing," I said, forcing calm. "Let's talk." Tom grabbed his tools faster than usual. "I'll swing by tomorrow to finish up," he said, locking eyes with me. "Don't forget what we went over." After he left, Julia grabbed a glass and poured herself some chilled rosé from the fridge. It wasn't even 4:30. "That guy gives me the creeps," she said, swirling her wine. "Always snooping, asking too many questions." "He's been fixing houses since we were kids," I said. "He knows his stuff." "I'm not saying he's bad at his job," she shot back, taking a long sip. "I'm saying he's too nosy. Some things should stay between us, Mitch. Family matters." The irony hit like a punch. "Couldn't agree more," I said, leaning against the counter watching her. "Speaking of that, I've been thinking we should beef up our security. Maybe some cameras." Her glass froze mid-sip. "Cameras? For what?" "Burglaries are up around here. The Thompsons had their garage hit last month. I want to keep the family safe." She set her glass down, wine sloshing over the rim. "That's over the top, Mitch. We're in a good neighborhood." "Good's not bulletproof," I said. "You never know who's scoping out the house, learning our habits." Her jaw tightened and she wiped the counter, though it was already spotless. You're acting paranoid. Am I? Or am I just starting to notice things? We locked eyes across the kitchen. 15 years of marriage, and it was like staring at a stranger, a gorgeous, dangerous stranger who'd been sharing my bed, plotting who knows what behind my back. I'm picking up the kids, I said, breaking the silence. They can walk. It's only 5 blocks. Not today, I want to drive them. Why? She asked, her tone sharp. Because I want to spend time with my kids. Is that a problem? She turned away, scrubbing the counter harder. Do what you want. You always do. I grabbed my keys and headed out. Behind me, her phone buzzed with a text, then another, then a third. In the truck, I called my sister, Ellen. Hey, Mitch, what's up? Can Sophie and Liam crash at your place tonight? Maybe tomorrow too? Sure, but is everything all right? I glanced in the rearview mirror as I pulled away. Julia stood at the kitchen window, phone to her ear, gesturing wildly. I'll fill you in later, I said. Just keep them safe. Mitch, you're worrying me. Good. Sleep was a no-go that night. I holed up in my garage workshop, poring over that yellow envelope under the glow of a desk lamp. Tom had swung by after Julia hit the sack, dropping off the envelope and something else he'd found. A tiny security camera, the kind you'd use to keep tabs on a house, stashed in an air vent. Someone's been keeping an eye on you, Mitch, he'd said, voice grim. The question is, who? By 2 a.m., I had my answer. The camera's memory card held dozens of snapshots, me pulling into the driveway, hauling bags of mulch in the backyard, loading crates at Summit Building Supplies. The angles screamed that whoever took these knew my every move. My phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. Keep poking around and you'll regret it. I snapped a screenshot, fired back. Who's this? Nothing came back. I logged into our cell phone account, something I'd never bothered with since Julia always handled the bills, claiming she had a knack for the details. Now I saw what she'd buried. 3 extra lines on our plan, numbers I didn't know, all loaded with unlimited data and fancy features. One matched the mystery texter. Another belonged to Marcus Tate. Marcus was a real estate hotshot, rolled around in a sleek black Audi, oozing the kind of charm that came from sealing big-ticket deals. I'd sold him lumber and drywall a few times for his clients' renovations. He always seemed like the kind of guy who collected prizes, fancy watches, classic cars, maybe other men's wives. The third number? No clue. At 6 a.m., I drove to Sally's Cafe on Church Street in Burlington, Vermont. Sally Horton had run the place for 25 years and knew every whisper in town. If Marcus Tate was messing with my marriage, she'd have the dirt. Mitch Carver, she called from behind the counter, wiping her hands on her apron. Been a minute. Where's that wife of yours? Early shift, I said, sliding onto a stool. You know how it goes. Sure do. She poured me a coffee. Speaking of busy, Marcus Tate's been all over lately. Real estate must be hot. I ordered bacon and eggs, keeping my tone light. Yeah, guys always had big plans. Big plans? Sally chuckled, shaking her head. That's one way to put it. Guy's got a wandering eye, if you ask me. In here last week with some married gal. Not his wife, that's for sure. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. No kidding? Yup, she said, topping off my mug. Real classy lady. Professional type. They were all hush-hush, holding hands under the table like kids sneaking around. She leaned in, voice dropping. Dark hair, pricey outfit, drove a silver Mercedes SUV, smelled like some fancy perfume. Jasmine and cash, if you ask me. Julia's perfume, Julia's car. I ate in silence, left a big tip, and headed to my supply yard. My right-hand man, Greg Walsh, was already there, unloading a truck of plywood. Greg, ex-Navy, built like a tank, had the kind of no-nonsense honesty that hit like a hammer. Boss, you look rough, he said, tossing a board onto the stack. What's eating you? I spilled it all. The phone, the photos, the camera, Marcus Tate. Greg listened, face darkening with every word. Damn, he said when I finished. How long's this been going on? Based on the texts, 6 months, maybe more. I showed him the phone records, the messages, the snapshots. He studied them like he was back in the service, scoping out enemy lines. This ain't just an affair, Mitch. They're cooking up something big. Look at these. Bank records, insurance policies, your business contracts. Why'd they need all that? The realization slammed into me like a falling beam. You think they're planning to clean me out? Or worse, Greg said, eyes narrow. You've got a solid business, nice house, Good policies? If something happens to you, Julia gets it all and walks off with her boyfriend. We stood there surrounded by stacks of lumber and tools meant for building things that last, while my marriage was crumbling like dry rot. What's your next move? Greg asked. I want to know exactly what they're up to, and I want to stop it. That's risky. Riskier than sitting on my hands? He grinned, a glint in his eye. Fair point. What do you need? Help me set up some hidden cameras around the house, ones they won't spot, and dig into Marcus Tate's business, his money, his weak spots. I'm on it, Greg said. What about Julia? I'm going to let her think she's still in control. Give her just enough leash to trip herself up. That night I got home to find Julia in the kitchen, stirring a pot on the stove. She was in a new dress, hair freshly done, looking like she was headed somewhere fancier than our dining room. You're back early, she said, not glancing up. Thought I'd mix things up, I said, leaning against the counter. Smells good. Just pasta, nothing special. I watched her flit around the kitchen, noticing how she kept glancing at her phone, jumping every time it buzzed. Sophie and Liam are staying at Ellen's again tonight, I said. Why? She asked, her voice sharp. Figured we could use some alone time. Get back to us. She turned and I caught a flicker in her eyes. Worry, maybe guilt. That'd be nice, she said, but her tone was strained. Over dinner, I played the clueless husband, chatting about my day, tossing in a dumb story Greg told me, praising the food, all while watching her fidget. You seem off, I said, cutting into my spaghetti. Just worn out, she said. Work's been a lot. Need a hand with anything? No, it's just an office drama. You wouldn't get it. Try me, I said, leaning back. I deal with people all day, too. She set her fork down, giving me that patient look she used when talking to the kids. It's not the same, Mitch. Your customers buy lumber and go. Julia's job, she said, was all about juggling tricky relationships, managing egos, and dealing with delicate matters. Must be tough keeping things under wraps, I said, eyeing her as she grabbed her phone the second it buzzed, her fingers flying across the screen. Something urgent? I asked, twirling my fork in the pasta. Work crisis, she muttered, not looking up. Doesn't always stick to 9 to 5. I nodded, chewing slowly. Been thinking we should take a trip, just you and me. Get away from all this stress. Her thumbs paused over her phone. I can't take time off right now. When did we last go anywhere together? I pressed. I don't know. Last year? That was at Mom's place in Concord. I mean, somewhere for us. She was back to typing, barely listening. Maybe next spring? What about this weekend? We could head to Stowe, crash at that cozy inn you used to love. She snapped her head up, irritation flashing in her eyes. Mitch, I told you I'm booked. Booked with what? Commitments, she said, her voice sharp. What kind of commitments? Why are you grilling me? She shot back, gripping her phone tighter. I'm not grilling. I'm trying to plan a weekend with my wife. Your timing's awful, she said, her cheeks flushing. When's better? Later, I don't know. How much later? She slammed her phone down. What is this, Mitch? A damn interrogation? I leaned back, watching her hands tremble slightly. Just trying to figure out my wife's schedule. Is that a crime? You're acting strange, she said, narrowing her eyes. Strange how? Pushy, like you don't trust me. The irony nearly made me choke. Should I trust you? Her face froze. What's that supposed to mean? Just asking a straight question. We stared across the dinner table. 15 years of shared meals, dreams, and secrets between us. I wondered if she could see the truth dawning in my eyes, that our marriage was hanging by a thread. Her phone buzzed again, but this time she let it sit. I'm turning in early, she said, standing. Big day tomorrow. Doing what? Meetings, paperwork, the usual. Home for dinner? Probably not. Don't wait up. After she headed upstairs, I checked the security cameras Greg had helped me rig up. Tucked into the roofline, they were practically invisible, with night vision and motion sensors. The feeds piped straight to my phone. At 11:52 p.m., I watched Julia slip out the back door, climb into her silver Mercedes, and peel out. I tailed her. She drove to the Maple Leaf Motel off Route 7 in Rutland, a seedy joint that rented rooms by the hour, no questions asked. Marcus Tate's black Audi was parked around back, out of sight from the main road. I pulled into a lot across the street, grabbed my binoculars, and watched as Julia knocked on room 14. Marcus opened the door, pulled her inside, and shut it fast. For 20 minutes, I sat in my truck, hands clamped on the steering wheel, wrestling with myself. Part of me wanted to storm that door and have it out with them. Part of me wanted to drive home and act like I'd seen nothing. But the practical side, the one that built Summit Building Supplies from the ground up, knew proof trumped a fistfight. I snapped photos. Her car, his car, the motel room, every shot time-stamped. Then I drove back and waited. She rolled in at 2:41 a.m., easing the Mercedes into the garage like she was trying not to wake me. When she slid into bed, I played dead, catching a whiff of Marcus's cologne clinging to her. Come morning, she was up early, showering and primping with extra care. Sleep okay? I asked as she came downstairs, pouring coffee into a to-go mug. Fine, she said, avoiding my eyes. You? Like a rock. I'll be late again, she said. That big project, right? The sensitive one. She nodded, grabbing her keys. After she left, I called Greg. Need a favor, I said. Shoot. Marcus Tate's Audi, black, license plate. I read it off from my photos. I want it decorated. Greg laughed. What kind of art project are we talking? Something that sends a message. Can do. Anything else? Yeah. Dig up where Marcus lives, works, who his clients are. I want the full picture. Consider it done, boss. That afternoon, I swung by Tate Realty Group, housed in a fancy old colonial on Maple Avenue, all white shutters and a polished brass sign screaming success. I strolled in, playing the part of a curious client, told the receptionist I was scouting commercial properties for my growing business. Marcus appeared in minutes, all charm and a firm handshake. Mr. Carver, good to see you again, he said, flashing a grin. Heard you're eyeing some expansion. Business is good, I said. I need warehouse space, maybe some storefront. Perfect, he said, leading me to his office. For an hour, he pitched listings, rattling off market stats and painting visions of my company taking over central Vermont. Guy was slick, I'd give him that. Polished, persuasive, and totally clueless that I knew he was tangled up with my wife. This warehouse on River Road could be a fit, he said, sliding a brochure across his desk. 25,000 square feet, loading bays, office space. The seller's eager to move it. Eager how? Going through a messy divorce. I need to cash out fast. Divorce can hit hard, I said, leaning back. Gets pricey. Sure does, Marcus said, smirking, especially when things get complicated. What kind of complications? He leaned forward, all-knowing. Let's just say some folks make bad calls. Cheating, hiding money, dumb moves. Smart ones plan ahead, cover their tracks before it blows up. I nodded, playing along. Good tip. A guy's got to protect what's his. Exactly, he said, leaning back. You'd be shocked how many get blindsided. Trust the wrong person, miss the red flags, and boom, lose the house, the business, the kids, everything. Divorce courts are ruthless, especially with evidence. What kind of evidence? Photos, bank records, witnesses, he said, shrugging. These days, with phones and social media, secrets don't stay secret long. The irony was rich. Here he was, preaching about cheating and evidence, with no idea I had pictures of him and Julia from last night. You sound like an expert on divorce, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Seen plenty of marriages crash and burn, he said. People think they're sneaky, but they always leave a trail. A trail? Texts, receipts, late nights with no alibi. The spouse is usually the last to know, but when they catch on, he dragged a finger across his throat, grinning. Sounds personal, I said. Just client stories, he said, waving it off. Rough divorces. I do my best to help clients safeguard their wealth, but sometimes the damage is already done, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. I stood, shook his hand. Appreciate the rundown on those properties. Take your time thinking it over, he said with a slick grin, but don't wait too long. Good deals don't stick around forever. Neither do marriages, it seems, I shot back. He chuckled. That's life, ain't it? Sometimes you gotta grab what you want, even if it's someone else's. Everything's someone else's until it isn't, I said, holding his gaze. I walked out of his office with a clear picture of who I was up against. Marcus wasn't just some guy fooling around. He was a shark, preying on shaky marriages for profit. My phone buzzed as I climbed into my truck. A text from Greg. Package delivered. Check the lot behind Tate Realty. I strolled around the back of the building. Marcus's black Audi was splashed with neon orange spray paint. The marriage wrecker was scrawled across the windshield in letters 3 feet high. The side panel read, "Cheating doesn't pay, and payback's coming." Through the office window, I saw Marcus on his phone, waving his arms like a man possessed. His receptionist was snapping pictures with her cell. A small crowd had gathered, pointing, whispering, and taking their own photos. In a town like Burlington, gossip spread like wildfire. My phone rang. Julia. Mitch, where are you? At the supply yard. What's up? Someone trashed Marcus Tate's car. It's all over the internet. That's rough, I said, keeping my voice even. Any clue who'd do it? No, but people are saying he's been messing with a married woman. Really? They know who? Not yet, but you know how Burlington talks. Sure do, I said. Secrets don't stay buried long. You sound off, Mitch. You okay? Never felt better. How's your day? Fine, normal. Gotta work late again. Another big issue. Be careful out there, I said. Sounds like drama's going around. After we hung up, I swung by Sally's Cafe on Church Street. The place was humming with chatter about Marcus's car. Sally was in her element, serving up gossip with her coffee. Mitch, have you heard about the ruckus? She called, wiping down the counter. Hard to miss, I said, sliding onto a stool. Got any theories on who did it? Oh, that Tate fella's got enemies all over town, she said, pouring me a coffee. Could be anyone, especially a ticked-off husband. He's been playing with matches for years. About time he got scorched. I ordered a slice of apple pie and let the rumors swirl around me. Names were tossed out, marriages picked apart, affairs dissected. It was like watching a spark hit dry grass. My phone pinged. Another text from that unknown number. This is just the start. Back off, or it gets uglier. I showed it to Sally. Any idea who'd send something like this? She squinted at the screen. Sounds like someone's rattled, Mitch. Scared folks do dumb things. Like what? Like making threats they can't follow through on. That evening, I waited for Julia to head out for her work emergency. She was dolled up again, jumpy, checking her phone every other second. You sure you'll be all right here by yourself? She asked, adjusting her earrings. I'll survive, I said. Greg's coming over later to go over some paperwork. Oh, she said, her voice tight. Don't wait up. This might take all night. After she left, Greg showed up with a six-pack and a thick folder on Marcus Tate. Your boy's in deep, he said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. His business is drowning in debt, behind on his mortgage, plus he owes big to some bookies in Atlanta. How big? Over 250 grand, and these guys don't take IOUs. So Marcus was desperate for cash, which explained why he'd latched onto Julia. I scanned the financials. His real estate gig was a house of cards, his flashy lifestyle all smoke and mirrors. Julia wasn't just his side piece. She was his ticket out. There's more, Greg said, cracking a beer. I talked to some folks in Atlanta. Marcus has a habit of targeting married women with rich husbands. How many? At least 3 I could pin down. All ended in nasty divorces where the women lost everything. Lost everything? How? He'd charm them, get them to ditch their husbands, then vanish once the papers were signed. Sometimes he'd even testify against them in court, claiming they blackmailed him or some nonsense. The pattern was clear. Marcus was a pro at wrecking homes, bleeding families dry, and Julia was his latest mark. What's the plan? Greg asked. I took a long pull from my beer, staring out at the dark beyond the window. I'm going to give them exactly what they're planning for me. Total ruin. The next morning, I found Julia in the kitchen, scrubbing furiously at a coffee stain on her cream blouse. Rough start? I asked, leaning against the counter. Spilled in the car, she muttered. This top's toast. Too bad, it's nice. She glanced up, eyes narrowing. Since when do you care about my clothes? I noticed plenty, I said. Like how you've been pulling late nights all week. I told you, it's a big project. What kind of project? HR stuff. Sensitive. Must be. You're getting texts at all hours. Her hands froze on the blouse. What texts? The ones that get you up at night, sneaking to the bathroom to answer with the door shut? Mitch, what are you getting at? Just saying my wife's stressed, cagey, keeping secrets. As her husband, I'm worried. There's nothing to worry about, she snapped. Good. Then you won't mind grabbing lunch today. That new spot on Pine Street. I'm swamped. Dinner? Booked all weekend, Mitch. Stop it. What's keeping you so busy? Work, social stuff. Things you wouldn't get. Try me. She hurled the blouse into the sink, water splashing onto the counter. Why are you acting like this? Like what? Clingy? Pushy? It's not a good look. I'm trying to spend time with my wife. How's that a bad look? Since you started acting like some jealous kid. Am I jealous or am I just paying attention? She grabbed her purse and keys, storming toward the door. I'm late for work. Julia, I called. She paused, didn't turn. I love you. Whatever's going on, we can fix it. For a second, her shoulders slumped, and I thought she might come clean, might give us a shot to save what we had. But she straightened, walked out, and didn't say a word. After she left, I called my lawyer, Alan Wong. We'd been buddies since high school, and he'd handled the legal side when I started Summit Building Supplies. Mitch, business is still booming? He asked. Need some advice, Alan. Hypothetically. Shoot. If someone wanted to shield their assets in a divorce, what's the best move? Big question. Are we talking amicably or fighting? Let's say it's messy, with cheating involved. Well, hypothetically, the spouse who can prove infidelity has the upper hand, especially if there's financial shenanigans. Like what? Hiding money, shady spending, trying to screw over the other spouse. Courts don't take kindly to that. What about evidence? Photos, texts, witness statements, bank records showing weird transactions. The more proof you've got, the better, Alan said. If someone's planning to ditch their spouse for someone else, they better make sure they're squeaky clean. A sharp lawyer and solid evidence can leave them with nothing. I thanked him, hung up, and dialed Greg. Need another favor, I said. What's up? I want to know every move Marcus Tate makes, where he goes, who he talks to, what he's doing. Same for Julia. You want me to tail them? I want you to document everything, legally airtight. Got it. Anything else? Yeah, set up a public meeting, somewhere they'll feel safe. What kind of meeting? The kind where people show their true colors. That evening, I sent Julia a text from a burner phone I'd picked up that afternoon. This is a friend. Your husband knows about Marcus. Get out before it's too late. She was back home within an hour, pacing the kitchen like a trapped animal. Everything all right? I asked, leaning against the counter. Just exhausted, she said, her voice tight. You seem on edge. I'm not on edge. Her hands were trembling. You're shaking, I pointed out. She stuffed her hands into her pockets. It's chilly. It's 72 degrees here, Julia. Mitch, can I just unwind? I nodded, flipped open a magazine, but kept my eyes on her. She was glued to her phone, typing messages, deleting them, starting over. By 10 p.m., she headed upstairs to bed. I waited an hour, then checked the security cameras. At 11:28 p.m., she slipped out the back door. Greg was parked down the street in his truck, and we followed her to a 24-hour diner on the edge of Rutland. Marcus was already there, tucked into a corner booth, looking jittery. We parked across the street, watching through telephoto lenses as they dove into a heated exchange. Julia's hands were flailing. Marcus kept scanning the room like he was expecting a fight. After 25 minutes, they split up. Julia headed home. Marcus drove to his apartment complex. Greg and I tailed him. What's the play? Greg asked, eyeing Marcus's building from the parking lot. I'm going to have a chat with him. What kind of chat? The kind where I lay out what happens if he keeps this up. Careful, Mitch. Guy's desperate. Desperate guys do dumb things. I'm banking on it. I knocked on Marcus's door. He answered in a silk robe, a glass of bourbon in hand, his face going ghost white when he saw me. Mitch, what are you doing here? We need to talk. It's late, man. Maybe tomorrow. Now. He stepped aside, letting me into his apartment. It was flashy but tacky. Leather couches, gaudy modern art, like a showroom trying too hard. Drink? He offered. Pass. This won't take long. I sank into his leather armchair, making myself at home. It's about my wife. Julia, he said, playing dumb. You know her. Brunette, silver Mercedes, smells like secrets and bad choices. His grip tightened on his glass. I don't follow. Sure you do, I said, pulling out my phone. I showed him the motel photos, screenshots of their texts, copies of the financial documents they'd stashed. Jesus, Marcus muttered, his voice barely audible. Praying won't help you. Neither will Julia. Look, this isn't what you think. It looks like you roped my wife into helping you steal my money and wreck my family. We weren't what? Gonna rob me? Thank my marriage? Screw over my kids? He sank onto the couch looking deflated. It's not that simple. It's crystal clear. You're a vulture, and she's your latest prey. The only question is what's next. What do you want? You're gone by tonight. Leave Burlington. Leave Vermont. Leave my family alone. I can't just get up and go. I've got a business, clients, responsibilities. Your business is underwater, I said. Your clients are about to hear about your gambling debts in Atlanta and your track record of wrecking marriages. Your responsibilities are someone else's problem now. His forehead glistened with sweat despite the AC. How do you know all this? I know everything, Marcus. Your money troubles, your shady pals in Atlanta, your habit of targeting rich men's wives. I know about the other women you've burned, the families you've torn apart. What are you going to do? That's up to you. Disappear quietly, and this stays private. Stick around, and I make sure everyone in Vermont knows what you are. And Julia? She's my wife. I'll deal with her. She won't let this go. She's in deep. How deep? He looked at me, almost pitying. She thinks she's in love with me. No, she's in love with your lies. The problem is, you're broke. She's gonna get hurt. She's gonna get divorced. I stood, heading for the door. You've got 24 hours to clear out. If you're still here tomorrow night, I will start calling your creditors, your clients, your bookies in Atlanta. Mitch, hold up. What? She won't forgive you for this. I'm not after forgiveness. I'm after justice. What's the difference? Forgiveness is begged for. Justice is claimed. The next morning, Julia was gone before I woke up. A note on the kitchen counter read, "At Mom's for a few days. I need to think." I called her mom's place in Concord. No Julia. I checked our bank account, $18,000 gone. I called Alan Wong. I need to file for divorce, I said. Today. You sure, Mitch? Sometimes counseling can... I'm sure. How fast do you want this? With proof of cheating and financial games, how fast can we go? Pretty damn fast. What have you got? I spent the next hour laying it out for him. The motel photos, the text threads, the hidden phone, the stashed documents, the unauthorized withdrawal. This is rock solid, Alan said after reviewing the evidence. With this, you'll likely keep the house, the business, and get primary custody of Sophie and Liam. Spousal support? Doubtful. Julia might be lucky to get supervised visits. I thanked him, hung up, and called Ellen to check on the kids. They're okay, she said, but they're asking questions. When are you going to tell them what's going on? Soon, I said. I need to lock things down first. Mitch, you sound different. Different how? Tougher, sharper. Maybe that's who I should have been all along. That afternoon, Tom Bradley came by to wrap up the kitchen remodel. He found me at the table, staring at divorce papers. Tough day, he asked. Getting better, I said. Good, because I found something else in that wall. He handed me a small notebook, the kind for jotting down measurements or supply lists. But this one held something darker, a detailed plan to kill me, written in Julia's handwriting, orchestrated by Marcus. According to the notes, they'd been scheming for 3 months to stage an accident at my supply yard, cash in on my life insurance, sell Summit building supplies, and vanish together. Holy hell, I muttered. There's more, Tom said, passing me another envelope. Inside were bank statements, insurance policies, and a forged will leaving everything to Julia. I stared at the papers, fury and disbelief churning in my gut. They weren't just planning to leave me. They wanted me dead. Tom, take this to the cops. Already done, he said. Detective Laura Hawkins is on her way. 20 minutes later, Detective Hawkins sat at my kitchen table, poring over the evidence with the calm focus of someone who'd seen too much darkness. This is heavy, Mitch, she said. We're talking about a conspiracy to commit murder. Can you arrest them? We'll try, but we need to find them first. Find them? Julia's Mercedes was found abandoned at the Burlington airport this morning. No sign of her or Marcus Tate. My stomach dropped. They bolted. Looks like it, Hawkins said, but they'll slip up. People like this always do. After she left, I sat in the kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of my marriage, police reports and legal papers where love and trust used to be. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mitch? It was Julia, her voice small and shaky. Where are you? Doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? The affair? Stealing from me? Or plotting to kill me? Silence. The cops found your notebook, Julia. They know it all. It wasn't supposed to go like this. What, I wasn't supposed to find out? I was supposed to trust you while you planned my murder? It was Marcus's idea, she said. He said it was the only way. The only way to what? To be free, to be happy. So you decided to kill your kid's father. I didn't want to hurt Sophie and Liam, but you were fine making them orphans? More silence. Where's Marcus? I asked. Gone, she said. He ditched me at the airport, took the money, and told me I was on my own. Despite everything, a flicker of pity hit me. She'd torched our family for a guy who cut and ran the second thing that got messy. Julia, turn yourself in. I can't go to jail. You should have thought of that before planning to kill me. I was desperate, Mitch. Our marriage was dead. I felt trapped. Marcus promised. He promised you my insurance money. It wasn't just the money. It was always the money. You fell for a guy who's bankrupted 3 other women, owes cash to thugs in Atlanta, and makes a living gutting families. I thought he loved me. He loved my bank account. Mitch, please, can't we fix this? Fix what? You tried to have me killed. We could try therapy, start fresh, act like this never happened. The nerve of it floored me. Even with her betrayal laid bare on police desks across Vermont, she thought she could charm her way back. No, I said. No therapy, no fresh start, no pretending. You made your choice. Now deal with it. I'll lose everything. You already did. You just haven't faced it yet. The kids will be better off without a mother who plotted to kill their dad. You can't keep them from me. I won't have to. Vermont's courts will when you're convicted. Mitch, please. I hung up. An hour later, Detective Hawkins called. We nabbed Marcus Tate, she said. Where? Atlanta, trying to catch a flight to Brazil. He's in custody. And Julia? Still looking. She can't hide forever. That evening, I picked up Sophie and Liam from Ellen's. It was time to come clean. Dad, where's Mom? Sophie asked as we drove home. She's gone away for a bit. When's she coming back? Liam piped up. Not sure she will, bud. Why not? Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices that hurt their families. And when they do, there's a price to pay. What kind of price? The kind that changes everything. We drove the rest of the way in silence. At home, I cooked dinner, helped with homework, tucked them in. Routine dad stuff felt bizarre against the backdrop of betrayal. Later in my workshop, I thought about the guy I was a week ago. Trusting, blind, believing in the good in people. That guy was gone, replaced by someone tougher, warier, less quick to buy into promises. Maybe that was a loss, or maybe it was survival. My phone buzzed, another text from an unknown number. This ain't over. I typed back. Yeah, it is. You ruined my life. You ruined your own. I just caught you. I'll make you pay. You already tried. How'd that go? No reply. I deleted the thread, blocked the number, and hit the sack. 3 days later, Julia was picked up at a bus station in Cleveland. She dyed her hair red and was using a fake ID, but the security cameras caught her, and a scar from a childhood bike crash gave her away. Marcus had already cracked, spilling everything to the cops in hopes of a lighter sentence. He laid out how he targeted Julia, seduced her, and sold her on killing me as their ticket to a new life and financial freedom. Detective Hawkins laid out Marcus's confession during one of our follow-ups. Their scheme was straightforward. Sabotage a forklift at my supply yard to make my death look like a workplace mishap. Julia would play the heartbroken widow, pocket the life insurance, sell Summit building supplies, and meet Marcus in Brazil. What he didn't tell her was his plan to kill her too, once the money hit his offshore accounts. She was never going to see Brazil, Hawkins said. Marcus had a one-way ticket booked. So in a twisted way, Julia was his victim too. But she still chose to plot my murder. And the courts don't take that lightly. The trial dragged on for 3 weeks. I took the stand, detailing the hidden phone, the financial documents, and the notebook with their murder plan. Greg testified about Marcus's history of preying on married women. Tom spoke about the evidence stashed in our kitchen wall. Julia's lawyer tried to spin her as a manipulated pawn, trapped in a failing marriage and swayed by a cunning lover. But the evidence was ironclad. The notebook was in her handwriting. Her signature was on the bank withdrawals. The texts showed her eagerness for their scheme. Marcus got 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder and fraud. Julia got 15 with a shot at parole in 10. At her sentencing, she stared across the courtroom, her eyes flickering with something, maybe regret, maybe resentment. All I felt was relief that it was done. After the trial, I poured myself into rebuilding. Sophie and Liam started therapy to cope with their mom's betrayal. At 12, Sophie grasped more than Liam, but both wrestled with the fact that their mother tried to kill their dad. Will she ever come back? Liam asked one night as I tucked him in. No, buddy, she won't. Good, he said, rolling over to sleep. The business took off. Being the guy who outsmarted a murder plot turned me into a local legend. Folks wanted to buy from the man who beat his cheating wife and her shady boyfriend. Greg became my full partner, investing his military savings into Summit. We expanded into 3 counties, hired a dozen new workers, and built a name for honest deals and solid work. You know what I figured out from all this? Greg said one day as we watched a crew unload lumber at a site. What's that? Trust is like a foundation beam. Once it's cracked, the whole thing's shaky. Deep thoughts for a guy who used to blow stuff up, I teased. Had time to mull it over, he said. Your marriage looked sturdy from the outside, but the base was rotten. How long do you think it was rotting? Longer than you'd like to know. He was right. Looking back, I saw the signs I'd brushed off. Julia pulling away emotionally, her constant nitpicking, treating our marriage like a contract instead of a bond. I'd been busy growing the business, raising the kids, living life, trusting her to keep her vows and put family first. That trust almost got me killed. 6 months post-trial, a letter came from Julia in prison. She wanted to see Sophie and Liam, explain herself, and beg for forgiveness. I tossed it without showing the kids. A year later, Marcus's gambling buddies in Atlanta got nabbed for money laundering and extortion. Turns out Marcus was funneling cash through his real estate deals to pay off his debts, using profits from his marriage-wrecking scams. The investigation uncovered 2 other husbands who died in accidents after their wives got involved with him. Both were ruled accidental at the time, but now they're being re-examined as murders. You're damn lucky to be breathing, Hawkins told me when she called with the update. How's that feeling? Like I got a second shot. What are you going to do with it? Live it smarter than the first. 2 years after the trial, Sophie graduated high school as valedictorian. She'd grown into a fierce, independent young woman who knew actions have consequences and trust, once shattered, is tough to rebuild. Liam excelled in soccer and school, turning his anger over his mom's betrayal into drive and focus. He rarely mentioned Julia, but when he did, it was with a calm acceptance that some people aren't who they seem. Do you miss her? I asked him once. I miss the mom I thought I had, he said, but she was never real. At 16, he was wiser than I'd been at 40. 3 years out, I met Nora, a teacher at Sophie's school, widowed after her husband's battle with leukemia. She was warm, upfront, and didn't play games with her feelings. I know your story, she said on our 3rd date. The whole town does. Does that bother you? Nah, it makes me admire you. You protected your family, held people accountable. That's guts. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same, she said with a smile. We moved slowly, building trust step by step, letting Sophie and Liam warm up to her before getting serious. After everything, none of us were in a hurry to jump into anything. 4 years after the trial, Julia came up for parole. Her lawyer reached out asking if I'd write a letter supporting her release. She served her time, he said. Model prisoner, got her GED, did therapy. Good for her, I said. Doesn't erase what she did. She's their mother. She's the woman who tried to kill me. Being their mom makes it worse. Don't you believe in forgiveness? I believe in the consequences. Her parole was denied. 5 years later, Sophie graduated college with a criminal justice degree, set on becoming a victim advocate, helping folks navigate the legal system after being betrayed by those they trusted. I get how they feel, she told me, and I know you can come out the other side. Liam got a full ride to Caltech for engineering, determined to build things that endure. Like you did, Dad, he said. You built something strong enough to survive what Mom tried to do. At Sophie's graduation party, surrounded by friends and family who'd stood by us through the storm, I took a moment to think about the road we'd traveled. I'd lost a wife, but I'd gained clarity. I'd lost my blind faith in people, but I'd learned to see them for who they are. I'd lost my naivety, but I'd found resilience. Most importantly, I'd kept Sophie and Liam safe and shown them that choices have consequences, trust must be earned, and sometimes the people who say they love you can hurt you the most. Greg raised a glass at the party. To Mitch Carver, he said, a guy who proved the truth always comes out, no matter how messy. Everyone lifted their drinks. Sophie flashed me a smile across the room. Liam gave me a nod from where he stood with his girlfriend. Nora squeezed my hand. Any regrets? She asked softly. I thought it over. Did I regret marrying Julia? Trusting her? Spending 15 years building a life with someone who'd planned to destroy me? Nope, I said finally. No regrets. Why not? Because every step brought me here, to this moment, with these people. Knowing what I know now. Love without trust is just a fancy lie. Loyalty's got to go both ways, and sometimes the biggest act of love is refusing to let someone keep hurting you. 6 years after the trial, I married Nora in a quiet ceremony with close friends and family. Sophie walked me down the aisle. Liam was my best man. Greg handled security, making sure no ghosts from my past could crash the day. It was everything my first wedding wasn't. Honest, warm, built on mutual respect and real care. On our honeymoon in Scotland, strolling along the cliffs of Orkney, Nora and I talked about the future we wanted. Kids, maybe. Travel, for sure. a life rooted in truth, not pretty illusions. Think you'll ever trust fully again? She asked. I trust you, I said. That's not what I meant. I paused, weighing her question. Would I ever have that blind, all-in trust I'd given Julia? Assume love alone guaranteed loyalty? No, I said honestly. I won't trust like that again. Does that make you sad? It makes me cautious. And cautious ain't bad, especially in a marriage. She nodded, getting it. We both carried scars. Hers from losing her first husband to cancer. Mine from learning my first wife wanted me dead. But scars weren't just pain. They were proof of survival, lessons carved deep, reminders of what you'd never let happen again. 7 years post-trial, Julia was released from prison after serving her full sentence, denied parole twice more. She moved to Arizona, changed her name, and tried to start fresh. She sent one letter to Sophie and Liam, asking for a chance to reconnect. Neither responded. I don't hate her, Sophie told me, but I don't need her in my life. She's still your mom, I said, leaving the door open if they wanted it. Blood doesn't mean I owe her anything, Liam said. She made her choices. We've made ours. I was proud of their strength, their ability to set boundaries, their grasp that forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back in. 8 years after the trial, Marcus Tate died in prison, a heart attack per the official report, though whispers suggested his Atlanta bookies finally settled their score. I felt nothing when I heard. No satisfaction, no sorrow, just indifference. He'd become a footnote in my life the day he was sentenced. 9 years out, Sophie got promoted to supervisor in her victim advocacy program, having helped hundreds navigate the fallout of betrayal, fraud, and violence. Ever think about what might have happened if you hadn't found that phone? She asked over one of our monthly dinners. Every damn day, I said, and I'm grateful for Tom Bradley's nosiness and your mom's bad choice of hiding spots. Sophie laughed. Grandpa never hid stuff in walls. I know, but Julia didn't know that when she picked her spot. We chuckled, finding humor in the nightmare that once threatened to break us. Liam graduated from Caltech and launched his own engineering firm, focusing on structures built to withstand brutal weather. His first big project was a tornado-resistant school in Mississippi. I'm building things that keep people safe, he told me, like you did, Dad. 10 years after the trial, I was invited to speak at a conference for small business owners about protecting assets in a divorce. My story had become one of Vermont's wildest legal sagas, making me an accidental expert. Pay attention, I told the crowd. Trust your gut, document everything, and never assume the person sharing your bed is who you think they are. After my talk, a woman in her 40s approached, well-dressed but nervous. Mr. Carver, I think my husband's up to something. I found some papers. At Sophie's graduation party, surrounded by the friends and family who'd carried us through the darkest days, I took a step back to think about the path we'd walked. I'd lost a wife, but I'd gained hard-earned wisdom. I'd lost my rosy view of people, but I'd learned to see them clearly. I'd lost my innocence, but I'd found strength. Above all, I'd kept Sophie and Liam safe, teaching them that choices have consequences, trust is earned, and sometimes those who claim to love you can wound you the deepest. Greg lifted his beer at the party. To Mitch Carver, he said, a man who showed the truth always comes out, even when it's ugly. Glasses clinked around the room. Sophie shot me a grin from across the crowd. Liam flashed a thumbs up, standing with his girlfriend. Nora squeezed my hand. Any regrets? She asked quietly. I mulled it over. Did I regret marrying Julia? Trusting her? Building 15 years with someone who'd planned my murder? None, I said finally. Why not? Because every twist and turn brought me here, with these people, knowing what I know. Love without trust is just a pretty trap. Loyalty's gotta be a two-way street, and sometimes the truest love means saying no to someone's destructive choices. 6 years after the trial, Nora and I tied the knot in a small ceremony with our closest friends and family. Sophie walked me down the aisle. Liam stood as my best man. Greg made sure no uninvited shadows from my past could crash the day. It was everything my first wedding wasn't. Genuine, joyful, built on real respect and affection. On our honeymoon in Scotland, wandering the rugged coast of Skye, Nora and I talked about the life we wanted. Maybe another kid. Definitely more travel. A future grounded in honesty, not comfortable lies. Will you ever trust completely again? She asked. I trust you, I said. That's not what I mean. I thought about it. Would I ever give that blind, all-in faith I'd handed Julia? Believe love alone guarantees loyalty? No, I said. I won't trust like that again. Does that hurt? It keeps me sharp, and being sharp's not a bad thing, especially in a marriage. She nodded, understanding. We both bore scars, hers from losing her first husband to leukemia, mine from learning my first wife wanted me dead. But scars were more than pain. They were proof of what you'd endured, lessons you'd learned, boundaries you'd never let be crossed again. 7 years post-trial, Julia was released from prison after serving her full sentence, denied parole twice more. She moved to Arizona, changed her name, and tried to start over. She sent a letter to Sophie and Liam asking to rebuild their bond. Neither replied. I don't hate her, Sophie said, but I don't need her in my life. She's still your mom, I said, leaving the door open. Being my mom doesn't mean I owe her, Liam said. She chose her path. We chose ours. Their clarity and strength made me proud. They'd learned to set boundaries and understood forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. 8 years after the trial, Marcus Tate died in prison, a heart attack officially, though rumors hinted his Atlanta bookies had settled their debt. I felt nothing when I heard. No satisfaction, no regret. He'd faded from my life the moment the gavel fell. 9 years out, Sophie was promoted to supervisor in her victim advocacy program, having guided hundreds through the wreckage of betrayal and fraud. Ever think about what could have happened if you hadn't found that phone? She asked over one of our monthly dinners. Every day, I said, and I'm thankful for Tom Bradley's snooping and your mom's lousy hiding spot. Sophie laughed. Grandpa never stashed stuff in walls. I know, but Julia didn't when she picked that spot. We shared a chuckle, finding lightness in a story that once nearly broke us. Liam graduated from Caltech and started an engineering firm specializing in stormproof buildings. His first major project was a hurricane-resistant school in Mississippi. I'm building things that keep people safe, he said. Like you did, Dad. 10 years after the trial, I spoke at a conference for small business owners about protecting assets in a divorce. My story had become one of Vermont's wildest legal tales, making me an accidental expert. Pay attention, I told the audience. Trust your instincts, document everything, and never assume the person next to you is who you think. Afterward, a woman in her 40s approached, polished but anxious. Mr. Carver, I think my husband's hiding something. I found some documents. I listened to her, gave her Alan Wong's number and Detective Hawkins' contact, and told her survival was possible. How do you know? She asked. Because I made it through. If I can, anyone can. 11 years post-trial, Nora and I welcomed our daughter, Ivy. Sophie and Liam were over the moon to have a baby sister, and watching them dote on her reminded me that families can heal, love can overcome betrayal, and sometimes the best revenge is just living well. Holding Ivy in the hospital, I thought about the guy I was before that phone turned up in the kitchen wall, trusting, hopeful, a bit blind. He believed love was enough, marriage was forever, and people were mostly good. I miss that guy sometimes, but I wouldn't trade the lessons I'd learned for the innocence I'd lost. What's on your mind? Nora asked from her hospital bed. The future, I said. All the things I'll teach Ivy. Choices have consequences. Trust is earned. Love without respect is empty. Heavy stuff for a newborn, she said, smiling. She'll learn it slowly, like we all do. And if she screws up, she'll grow from it. That's what mistakes are for. 12 years after the trial, word came that Julia had remarried, a retired bookkeeper from Tucson, a widower looking for companionship. I wondered if she'd told him about her past, about plotting to kill her first husband for insurance money. I decided it wasn't my concern. Hope she's happy? Nora asked when I mentioned it. I hope she's learned from her mistakes. Not the same thing. Nope. Do I think she has? No clue, and I don't need to know. 13 years out, Sophie got engaged to a fellow victim advocate, a solid guy who respected her past and her boundaries. How do you know he's the one? I asked. He doesn't try to fix or change me, she said. He accepts all of me, scars and all. That's a good foundation, I said. It's everything, Dad. It's what you and Nora have. She was right. Nora and I built our life on accepting each other, flaws, histories, and all, without pretending our past didn't shape us. 14 years after the trial, Liam married his college sweetheart in a stunning ceremony by Lake Champlain. In his reception speech, he thanked me for showing him what integrity means. My dad taught me doing what's right ain't always easy, but it's worth it, he said. He showed me that protecting the people you love sometimes means tough calls. And he proved the truth, even when it hurts, beats a cozy lie every time. I was proud of the man he'd become, the values he held, the life he was carving out. 15 years post-trial, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Caught early, the outlook was good, but it made me face my mortality in a way I hadn't since finding Julia's murder plan. "You scared?" Nora asked as we awaited my surgery results. "Nah," I said, meaning it. "Why not? I've already faced the worst thing possible. Finding out the person I trusted most wanted me dead. Cancer's just another day after that." The surgery worked. The cancer was gone. I went back to work, to my family, to the life I'd rebuilt from the ruins of my first marriage. 16 years out, Ivy started kindergarten. Bright, curious, fearless in the way kids are when they feel safe and loved. "Tell me about Mommy Julia," she said one day, having picked up bits of the story from Sophie and Liam. "What do you want to know? Why'd she try to hurt you? She made bad choices and forgot what mattered." "What matters?" "Family, truth, doing what's right, even when it's hard." "Will I make bad choices?" "Probably, everyone does. The trick is learning from them and not repeating them." "Did Mommy Julia learn?" "I don't know, kiddo. I hope so." 17 years after the trial, I stepped back from running Summit, handing daily operations to Greg while keeping ownership. I wanted more time with Nora, to travel, to watch Ivy grow. "Any regrets about how it all played out?" Greg asked on my last day. "Not really. Not even about Julia." "Why not?" "She showed me who she was. That knowledge cost me, but I'm grateful for it. What if she'd never been caught? If their plan had worked? I'd be dead, and she'd be living off my insurance with a guy who'd have killed her too." "So you saved her life by exposing her." "I saved mine. What happened to her was her call." 18 years post-trial, Sophie had her first child, a boy named after me. Holding my grandson, I thought about how families endure, evolve, and heal across generations. "He looks like you," Sophie said. "Poor kid." "Don't say that. You're a good-looking guy." "I'm a guy who survived an attempted murder and lived to tell the tale. That's better than looks." "Is that how you want to be remembered?" "I want to be remembered as a man who protected his family and refused to play the victim." Mission accomplished. 19 years after the trial, Liam and his wife welcomed their first child, a daughter born on the anniversary of Julia's arrest. A coincidence that felt like the universe balancing the scales. "What do you think about her?" Liam asked, meaning Julia. "Sometimes," I said. "What do you think?" "She's a warning about what happens when you pick selfishness over love." "Do you forgive her?" "Forgiveness isn't the right word. I've accepted it and moved on." "That's not the same." "What would forgiveness look like?" "No clue, and I don't need to figure it out." 20 years after the trial, a publisher reached out, wanting a book about how I uncovered my wife's murder plot and brought her to justice. I passed. Some stories are worth sharing, but not every story needs to be sold. Instead, I focused on what mattered: my family, my health, the people who meant the most. I'd learned revenge isn't a dish best served cold, it's a dish best left off the menu. Justice, consequences, and protecting the innocent? That's a different story. On the 20th anniversary of finding that phone in the kitchen wall, Nora and I hosted a dinner for those who'd carried us through the worst of it: Greg and his wife, Tom Bradley and his family, Detective Hawkins, my lawyer Alan Wong, my sister Ellen. "What are we toasting to?" Ivy asked. At 15, she was old enough to know the full story of what happened before she was born. "Survival," I said. "Justice and paying attention to the people in your life." "And good friends," Nora added. "Good contractors," Tom said, raising his glass. "Good lawyers," Alan chimed in. "And good cops," Hawkins added. We toasted it all: survival, justice, friendship, competence, and the stroke of luck that led Tom to find that phone. After dinner, as we cleared plates, Ivy asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Dad, does Mommy Julia still think about us?" "Probably. Is she sorry?" "I think she's sorry she got caught." "That's not the same as sorry." "Would you ever see her again?" "No." "Why not?" "Some bridges once burned, stay burned. Some people, after showing you their true colors, don't get another chance to hurt you, even if they've changed. Even then, trust once shattered doesn't glue back together. You build something else instead. Caution, boundaries, careful steps. Never trust." That sounds heavy. What's heavy is betraying the people. This just makes it official. Any last thoughts about her? She had it all: a husband who loved her, great kids, a good life, and threw it away for a lie that was never real. Think she realized that before she died? I hope so, but it doesn't change anything now. Why not? The dead don't get to ask for forgiveness, and the living don't owe it. That night, we held a quiet moment, not for Julia, but for the marriage I thought we had, the woman I thought she was, the life we could have had if she'd chosen differently. Then we moved on, like we'd been doing for 21 years. 22 years post-trial, Ivy graduated high school as valedictorian, just like Sophie. In her speech, she spoke about integrity, the power of truth, and the strength born from surviving betrayal. My dad taught me we can't control what others do to us, she said, but we can choose how we respond, victims or survivors, bitterness or wisdom, letting pain define us or shape us. Watching her, I felt a quiet pride, not from revenge but from legacy. My kids had learned what I'd hoped to pass on, the difference between love and manipulation, loyalty and enabling, forgiveness and folly. They'd be okay. We all would. At the graduation party, surrounded by family and friends, I looked back on the journey. 22 years ago, I was a naive guy who trusted without question and loved without limits. That guy nearly died at the hands of the woman he vowed to cherish. From that wreckage, I built something better, a life rooted in truth, not illusion. Relationships grounded in mutual respect, not blind devotion. A family that knew the difference between love and loyalty. I'd learned the greatest revenge isn't hurting those who hurt you. It's building a life so strong, so full of real love, that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. Justice isn't about punishment, it's about consequences. Sometimes the harshest consequence is being left out of the good life you tried to destroy. Most of all, I'd learned that surviving isn't enough. You've got to thrive, build something stronger from the ruins, prove their betrayal made you better, not broken. Looking at Nora, Sophie, Liam, Ivy, my grandkids, and the friends who'd stood by us, I knew I'd done just that. Julia tried to end my life and failed. I built a better one without her.